All right, everybody, welcome to our latest Live Motocross podcast as we talk all things AMA Pro Motocross ahead of High Point and talk some MXGP with Jason Thomas. Firstly, thank you for everyone for listening and supporting the site. We really appreciate it. Firstly, shout out to the sponsors in Fly Racing and Firepower for this episode. Obviously, Fly Racing is aimed to provide customers with the very best in off-road performance products, led by the revolutionary Formula S Smart Helmet. Fly Racing continues to push innovation in safety to new levels. Never before has style and technology blended together so seamlessly as the 2025 Fly Racing lineup. So for more info, check out flyracing.com, check out your local dealers, follow Fly Racing Global on social media, and cheer for all the athletes in the SMX World Championships and in MXGP. Obviously, big shout out to Firepower Batteries and all they do as well. Go check out online and their website and socials for all their excellent offerings. Obviously, joining forces with Club MX and many other heavy hitters in the industry. So check them out. Obviously, quickly shout out to the Aussie young Reed Taylor making his Pro Motocross debut this weekend at High Point for Club MX. So that's really awesome for the sport in Australia and just for the general fans as well. So obviously, welcome JT. Thanks for taking the time for joining us, mate. It's a busy time in the sport, isn't it?
It is, man. It's crazy. Like around the world, like things are heating up on like the racing's awesome, but silly season is getting crazy everywhere you look right now. It's definitely an interesting time.
Yeah, we sort of promised it last time at the end of the podcast with Ben Townley last week. Obviously, we couldn't swing it this week with obviously the timing and all that's been happening, but we'll probably continue them in the future. But obviously, MXGP silly season was what we wanted to touch on. There's so much uncertainty surrounding it this year, mate. Obviously, guys are hurling's out of contract. There's a lot of dominoes to fall after that sort of happens. But with the KTM question marks on how their racing will look going forward with the finances, obviously they'll continue in some capacity because that's just so important to their brand. But there's a lot going on. It'd be quite strange to see hurlings after 16 years, I think Adam Wheeler was saying in Orange. So a lot of water to still go under the bridge, isn't there? And they're the two main pieces, aren't they?
Yeah, it's I think for Hurlings, he for so long was the highest paid guy in MXGP, and you know Tim Geiser's on a really high paying deal at the moment. I would guess Hurlings might still be at the top because he signed that deal 4 years ago. But Geiser's really close now. Like Geiser's probably moving forward would have the highest paying deal, but both of them seem like they may be moving around a little bit. And you have to think that the state of budgets and KTM groups, financial situation, all those things have to play a role in here somewhere. So I have it under pretty good authority that Jeffrey's shopping around a bit. Doesn't mean he wouldn't be on a KTM again, but I think from my perspective, and this is just my opinion, I have not firsthand spoken to Jeffrey. I think he's struggling a little bit with the state of the market, right? That's a factor. And then also he's older, so his value is simply less, right? Like he hasn't been a serious title contender in a couple of years now due to injuries, then age. Like companies, when they invest, they want to invest and then recoup that investment over the long term, which means that rider needs to be around for several years to get the marketing brand value around that rider that they're going to sell product based off of that for the long term. Well, Jeffrey's window for that is simply shorter now because he's older. And I do think he'll race in 26, maybe 27, but he is having to come to terms with that number being much lower. And that's just reality. That happens to every rider on earth. Look at Eli Tomac. The same thing's happening to him stateside. I don't know what, I do think he'll end up on a KTM, but like that was what happened with Yamaha. Like their budgets moved on. They're investing in like Justin Cooper, and they have to pay Cooper Webb more, and they're likely going to be in the bidding war for Hayden Deegan. Like the budgets move forward, and that's just the nature of things. So I don't know if Tim Geiser is facing the same thing or not. I kind of believe that Tim's deal is about the number, not so much his age, but like he's paid really, really well. And I think they kind of want to bring that number down a little bit just because of the state of things. And, I understand if that is the case, I understand Tim's side. He's like, listen, I've been winning everything over here. Why should I take a pay cut? Well, I mean, ask anybody who's been in racing when there's a big downturn market wise anywhere. It doesn't matter what place you're getting. You're going to take less money. There's just less money to be distributed, period. You know, you may still get the lion's share of that. There's just a less number. But yeah, when I ask around, talk to people that know, there's a lot of moving parts. You know, Tim's up and shopping around. Hurlings is definitely shopping around. I don't know where Lucas and or Sasha Kunin end up. You know, Langenfelder, like everybody seems like they're in flux, even though some of them are in contract. They're still in flux. Like there's a lot of moving parts, and everybody's willing to talk to everyone right now. And I think it's really ramped up in MXGP, where stateside it's just starting to kind of flesh out a little bit. Like I think Tomac's going to KTM. The Sexton and Cowie thing I think is pretty much stamped. Once those two fell into place, now everybody else is going to start moving quickly because the two biggest fish are off the board. Now everybody else is not going to be in this panic situation of we can't do anything because we can't tie up any dollars in case Tomac falls in our lap. That's kind of out now, so they can actually just start. Okay, who's best available? Who can we actually go get? And you're going to see things happen really quickly in America. Where I think they're still in the premature phase of that in MXGP, where until Tim and Jeffrey and Lucas Kunin come off the board or decide their destiny, I don't think you're going to hear a lot about anybody yet because of the same dynamic. Nobody's going to, direct budget or basically tie up those dollars because they don't want to miss out on what could have been. You know, like deals fall in your lap if you're sitting there waiting in the wings. So I cannot remember a time where it's been this crazy for MXGP, and I'm sure maybe it has been over the course of history, but these are the wildest scenarios I've ever heard of what's possible for 2026.
Yeah, it's absolutely fascinating stuff. You broke it down so well there, mate. And obviously the Red Bull KTM framework with the Coonans, obviously there's a lot of word about them going to HRC. We'll see what happens. What does that then mean for KTM? There's a lot of rumours that Simon Langenfelder could be on his way to Triumph. Obviously, Marc-Antoine Rossi's missed pretty much the whole season with an injury, so I guess it's hard to see him staying there. Do they promote someone like Volk to the Red Bull KTM team? There's a lot of sort of water to go under the bridge still, I guess, mate. But would that be a smart move for you? Same having Volk and Adamo and maybe Hurlings as a three rider. What does it look like? The Coonan brothers not on Ducati if they go to HRC. It leaves a lot up in the air, not just for the teams, but also for you as a fly racing with sponsorship interest in that side of it too, mate. So there's definitely going to be fun to watch it play out. And it's a bit of anyone's guess at this point still, isn't it?
Yeah, could you imagine a world, and I don't know, this is not from me talking to DeCarli or KTM or anybody, but could you imagine a world where DeCarli, Red Bull, it's what is it, Red Bull, KTM, DeCarli Factory Racing, or Red Bull Factory Racing DeCarli.
Got it.
I write that on my forehead. Yeah. Could you imagine if they had a completely different roster next year than they do this year? Like, they
Crazy.
are killing things over there. They're leading the MX2 championship. They're second in the MXGP championship. And then Sasha, who's crashes a lot, let's be real, he just had his best race of the year at Kegums in Latvia. They are on fire. And to think that they may have a completely different lineup next year it's hard to believe. Like, one would look at that and say, well, there's no way. Why would the riders or the team want to change anything when they're finding this much success? But that is a real possibility.
Yeah, it's crazy. And obviously, you're hearing things like Zanke and Fernandez could be out at HRC, which would obviously pave the way for the Coonan deal to happen. So, and then you look on to Yamaha, and it looks like obviously Renault's in, but what happens with Yago? The performances are coming a little bit better now. Obviously, had that qualifying race win in Spain, which was excellent. You'd think they'd keep Vlanderen. I've had obviously a bit of injuries too, but his results are pretty consistent. It's good to have a guy that pretty much makes every gate drop. So a lot of things to consider for Yamaha. Fantic, you'd imagine Bogas would probably wrap up. He's been a bit up and down and had a few issues, but Koldenhoff and Bonacorsi have been pretty solid. So those two outfits, they've got a lot of things to decide too, don't they?
They do. When I think about all these things, I think about, like, where does a guy like Tim Geiser go in this scenario? Everybody would want him. He's very expensive, multi-million-dollar per year guy, and that's where I think the problem has come from Honda. I don't think it's a performance thing. I don't think it's anything other than they need to pay him less because of budgets, and he feels like he's being disrespected because of that when it's not a personal thing. I don't believe, but assuming he does go elsewhere, I don't know. Like I would imagine, like Louis Vosters would move heaven and earth to get him on a Fantic. Yamaha is kind of nowhere with their entire program right now. Like Renault can win when he's healthy, but that's few and far between opportunities to do anything. So does Yamaha take a huge swing at bringing Geiser over there? I would have to imagine that Antti Pyörinen and Kimi Räikkönen would I bet Kimi would spend his own money to get him on a Cowie in that team, right? Like the possibilities are kind of endless. And most of them, like it's only going to be one scenario, but when I say I don't remember anything this crazy, it's because I think like everything's on the table for several guys, and these teams that don't have much going, and I don't like to use the word desperate because that's such a negative connotation, but they need to make a big splash. Like they need to make a move. They're probably fielding calls from like all of the best guys. Like if you are Alex Kowalski at Yamaha Europe, you probably could get a call with Geiser, Hurlings, and Lucas Kunin all in the same day. Like not to say that that's where they want to go, and not to say that they want any of those guys either, but that's the way these things work. You have a whiteboard, you talk to everybody, you see what makes the most sense. The riders kind of have their number one landing spot, and then they factor in money and all these things too. Like it's very rarely I want to go there. They're offering me the most money. They have the best bike. This is as easy as it gets, right? It's typically compromise. The teams with the best bikes a lot of times offer the least money because they know they have leverage. Enter Mitch Payton for 15 years, like from the 90s all the way to like 2010. He offered the least amount of money because you could go there and win. Very similar thing at Star. They don't have to pay as much as everybody else. Like they offer an opportunity. Yes, they'll pay their top guys, but a lot of those guys, like you see those guys that are getting like just kind of an opportunity, they're not getting paid a ton of money. They know they have the best bike, and if you want to come here and get a shot at winning, we'll give it to you. So all those dynamics are all super fluid. They're all moving around, and it's at real time. Like these calls and emails are flying around really quickly because, again, no one's done, no one's signed, which means every possibility is still at play. So it would be amazing to have like a kind of a flow chart, like a visual flow chart to see. And you wouldn't have all the information. I'm sure somebody is connected enough to know all these things, but this rider's talking to this team and they have this offer from over there there's a lot of really interesting details behind the scenes going on with all that stuff.
Yeah, obviously you throw into the factor, obviously Ducati's MXGP full debut season this year, Triumph coming in next year. You'd imagine they're probably not in a position or wanting to pay the huge money that, your Hurlings, your Geiser, your Coonens are demanding yet. And the riders probably aren't ready to take that leap on a platform that's not as proven as some of the other ones. But it looks like obviously Harrop will go MXGP and Triumph. Obviously you're seeing him every week in the Pro Motocross on a 250 at the moment, which is cool. Obviously, gifting could be an option for some teams. He's riding really well, punching above his weight for that team, the JK Racing Yamaha, doing so well. Hogmo's already signed. Maybe he should have held off. So there's a couple of guys that maybe they would be really good options for teams as well, but it's just hard. I had pretty decent season, so there's a lot of talent in that class. And yeah, it's looking like there's quite a few seats open. What happens with Jonas? I believe Kawasaki has an option on him. Fernandez, where does he go? Does he go to Kawasaki? Does Yamaha take a bite there too, mate? There's some really good guys, I guess, just around those sort of podium top 5 guys that have won GPs. The teams will be looking at, but they're just waiting, aren't they? It's all a waiting game, isn't it?
It is, and for those guys, a lot of those guys you mentioned, they're in a tough spot. Like they are just playing a waiting game because how same thing I mentioned with now that Tomac and Sexton are virtually off the board, I say virtually because we're not going to get any real confirmation until probably October. But for all intents and purposes, budgets have now been assigned, and the teams behind the scenes are now, okay, this guy's there, that guy's there. We have X amount of money to deal with, or we missed on both of them. We got to go get our guy. So the lesser chips are kind of starting to fall. In Europe, guys like Fernandez, I hate to say Seawer because he's been such a mainstay near the podium for so long, but he's not the guy that everybody's chasing right now. So he's likely having to wait. All these guys are kind of like, they're probably calling and they're getting a hold of the team owner, the team manager, and they're going, we're interested. We can't do anything yet, though. Like that conversation is probably happening for so many guys because everybody wants security. Everybody wants to know what they're doing next year. But unless you are one of the elites, you are subject to everyone else's time frame around you. You're not dictating any sort of decision making at all. So, and trust me, I was in this position for a very long time racing. I wasn't the first pick, right? Like, I often got my deals done, or I was like, a lot of times what happened with me is I was waiting. I was trying to like elevate. I would try in 2000, the end of 06, I was trying to go to MDK Honda, which they ended up signing David Villeman instead. But had Villeman not done that deal, I had a deal. So I was like waiting in the wings. If Villeman didn't want it, it was really good money. The bike would have been better. Like I was bummed that I really missed out on that. And that happened to me several times. Like I was in consideration for a Moto Triple X spot at one time, would have been a little bit more money. The bike would have probably been better. It was a little bit of a sideways move, but at the time, Triple X had a lot of momentum. But I was always waiting on someone else to decide. Like, I think it was like Larry Ward deciding if he was going to still race or not. Like he was considering retiring, which would have opened up a spot. So yeah, I can very much empathize with a lot of those guys that are like, hey, I'm riding really well. And no one's going to argue with them riding really well. It's just, you don't have any leverage. So you're going to get an answer when we're damn ready to, well and good, ready to give you one.
Yeah, well said, mate. It's really interesting insight there and perspective for sure, mate, and having lived through it. And obviously another man that is obviously going to create a bit of attention is Benistant moving up to MXGP. Obviously, it makes sense with the French connection on the Honda SR team because he sort of trains with the crew and knows that sort of framework pretty well. And obviously, he would probably be in line to replace Ferrato, who's had a pretty rotten time since leaving KTM a couple of years ago. Not that it was a factory team, but I believe he got some pretty good help. So he's just been ravaged with injuries. But Benistant was one. When he first moved up to MX2, you would have said for sure he'd have a world title because he sort of had all those junior titles and just hasn't quite pieced it together. He's had some unbelievable races, and you've commented on them, some of the finest motocross racing you'll see, but just hasn't been able to piece it all together, and he'll vacate the class in a bit of a strange spot, whereas you would have thought he'd be guaranteed factory, but he probably won't be now.
Yeah, I don't know what to make for Benistant. To me, it feels very much, maybe it's a little bit better than Geertz's situation. But both of them, if I'm Yamaha, I'm kind of looking at it like a shoulder shrug, right? Like Geertz has been wildly disappointing for me. This was a guy that if he stayed upright, he was winning MX2 races. And outside of like a incredible 2022 Redbud Motocross of Nations ride and that qualifier the other week, there hasn't been much. And I'm being generous with saying there hasn't been much. So I can't imagine Yamaha is offering him anything at the moment. Maybe if he sticks around and things go his way, they, hey, you're going to ride for free type thing. Benistant maybe deserves a little better than that because he hasn't had to prove himself or disprove anything on a 450 yet. But I can't imagine there's a lot of demand. Like there are a lot of riders out there that I would say are as good or better that are kind of proven. Like all the guys we mentioned, like a guy like Ruben Fernandez, is he going to win an MXGP World Championship? Probably not. But is he a shoe-in to get some podiums every year? And has done a great job of kind of being a wingman for Tim Geiser. Yeah, yeah. So like, what's the big, I guess, benefit of signing a guy like Benistant over Fernandez? I can't imagine Benistant jumping up and going and winning. I just don't see that happening. It's not impossible. I didn't see that for Renault, and he, proved me wrong several times. But I don't know. I think this is a recurring theme with, unless you are a standout MX2 rider, getting a factory ride in MXGP right now is a very, very difficult ask. Like, there are just not enough positions for guys that are factory rider, I would say, deserving. But yeah, too many eligible riders and not enough jobs.
Yeah, it's really interesting. You're seeing it firsthand. Guys like Gio and Paturel that are probably, just below that factory level. They're doing great things in pro motocross, and it's where the opportunities are for you as well. And you look at someone like Beniston, obviously very skillful. Would he have a go at Supercross? Obviously, there's the Kai DeWolf Pro Circuit Kawasaki links. Not sure how much truth there are in them, but yeah, the stateside is definitely a very sort of appealing proposition for a lot of these guys, and we've seen it especially over the last few years. So many guys coming over there to race. So even guys from Australia in the break and the Pro MX season come over, like your Websters, your Beatons, these kind of guys. So yeah, it's pretty cool, mate. But that DeWolf to Pro Circuit's definitely one that's lingering in the background. It'll be really cool to see it happen, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think, for Mitch, he's looking at, okay, is DeWolf going to come and win Supercross? Probably not, but he's still young enough where maybe he could grow into a guy that could, challenge there. But he's looking at plug and play. He comes in and can challenge for race wins in Pro Motocross in 2026. And especially when you consider that Hayden Deegan will be moved to the 450 class next summer, that presents a big opportunity. And, what's Kai, 18, 19? You figure he's probably got at least 2 or 3 good years in him on a 250 if he decided to come over for Mitch. I get the intrigue because the door is going to be open next year. I don't know who's going to fill it because Tom Vial is going to have to move to 450 Supercross. Does he move back down from Pro Motocross? I don't know. Deegan's going to be gone. So it's going to be guys like Kitchen, Hymas, take your pick of all those guys in that window. Marchbanks, Masterpool. There are a lot of guys. But you would like to think that Kai DeWolf, a prepared Kai DeWolf, could fit right into that fight. I believe he could. There are people watching Jorge Prado right now saying, how could you even say that? Look at Prado. I know better than that, right? Like, this Prado thing is a very unique thing that's going on. I think DeWolf, not saying he would win, but he would be relevant, right? Like, look at Harrop this past weekend. He ran third for several laps. Like, he was in the fight, ended up 5th or 6th. DeWolf's significantly better than Harrop. We all agree on that. So, yeah, I don't know. The only thing I would say on that front is, if that came to fruition, if DeWolf left Europe, went to Pro Circuit, I would think long and hard about putting him in Supercross in 26. I would say, hey, if you want to train with guys in the off season, go through, like, understand what that's like. Like, you go through the November, December process, but when we get to January, you're out. Like, we're shutting that off. You're going to go into Pro Motocross prep. And then for 27, cool. You already know what boot camp, you know what the training is going to be like. And then you get to race in 27. But, man, look at Prado this year. Like, you can take such a huge step back by forcing Supercross too early, injuring yourself, setting yourself back. Then Pro Motocross doesn't go very well, and you lose all your confidence. I've seen it too many times where the unfamiliarity with Supercross, which isn't even the goal the first year, like, there's no way in God's green earth Mitch Payton is hiring Kai DeWolf for Supercross right now. Like, that is not he knows he can go win Pro Motocross races or be in the fight. So set him up for the most success to do that. And then in 27, fine, go race Supercross. Like, I'm sure Kai DeWolf wants a Supercross career. Just don't sacrifice the early days of it because everybody assumes he needs to race Supercross. Like, Prado should be a extreme cautionary tale for everybody thinking about how that plan works moving forward.
Yeah, it'll be really fascinating to follow that one. It'll definitely be interesting. Just let him ease into it and then go from there. But Obviously, you mentioned as we kind of look ahead with all the silly season going on in America as well. What does that look like for Motocross of Nations? Does that mean that we don't have Tomac and Sexton lining up if they're changing teams? It'll be fascinating to see. That would probably leave you with a team of Plessinger, J. Coop, and Hayden Deegan if he races, or Hymas, whatever. Excellent team still, but there could be a few spanners in the works there. We were looking quite far ahead, mate, but it'll come around quick, won't it?
Yeah, I do think a healthy Deegan, I think is on the team. There's a lot there. Like, I do think that the Deegans want to get paid for that race. That's part of the reason why he hasn't raced it in the past. But I think there would be way too much public pressure for him to not race it in America. And just on the marketing opportunity for them, like I can't imagine a world where if he's healthy and he's the champ, he doesn't race this year. I just can't picture that. The real questions for me are if Tomac is switching teams, which he is, and Sexton's switching teams, which he is, and nothing, I can't prove it, right? If we were in court, I wouldn't be able to prove it, but circumstantial evidence says they are. Are they going to race for Team USA? And if they do, are they going to race on the old bike or the new bike? There's so much to work through on the MX1 and MX2 spots. I think on the MX Open or 3, MX2 to me is kind of a no-brainer. It's Deegan. If for whatever reason he can't, then Hymas is in. Outside of that, man, like I couldn't tell you how this goes. AP would for sure do it. We know that. For sure AP would do it. But on paper, the obvious picks are Sexton and Tomac, in my mind. Like, they've been there, they've done it. Sexton was on the winning team in 22. He's your reigning Pro Motocross champion. It's a no-brainer. But how could anybody have any confidence that he's going to want to race it on a KTM? And if he does go to Cowie, is Cowie going to turn around, a week after the final SMX finale and it's just, man, I don't know. Like, hopefully we'll get more clarity as we get closer. But a guy like Mike Pelletier, who is in the end the decision maker, he's probably just scratching his head going, how the hell is this going to go? Like, I thought this was going to be easy. This was the year it was supposed to be easy. I thought I could have the team done early. And now it's just going to hell in a handbasket because of all these riders moving around.
Oh, mate, it seems to happen every year with Team USA, the drama surrounding it. Obviously, you had the one in France a couple of years ago, and last year at Madeley Basin, there was just a lot of drama surrounding that too. Obviously, Sexton getting injured didn't help in SMX. And what is it looking like for Sexton? Are we going to see him back, obviously, after the break? That's a lot of the talk. Have you heard anything else, mate? It's a really confusing situation. Obviously, we just want to see him back out there and battling with Jett and Tomac, don't we?
Yeah, I guess he's just banged up.
Yeah.
I guess he's just banged up. Oh God, it really comes down to, in the end, what do I think is going on? Because there is no way for anybody, unless you are in his inner circle, there's really no way to truly have definitive answers. What I think is happening, I think he was unhappy with how things were going. He didn't start the day well at Fox Raceway. Probably was unhappy with the motorcycle somewhere, somehow, because that's very much his MO. Crashed, hurt himself, realized the championship's over before it even started, and wanted a break after Supercross anyway. He's not staying on that team, so he doesn't really care about keeping them happy. And he's going to come back when he feels like it. And, I do think he'll, somewhere in his brain, he'll want to get back out there and race. I don't think that he cares so much about Super Motocross World Championship playoffs, because his experience with that both years has been pure shit. It has not gone well for him. I don't think it's like, I got to be ready for that, because it just hasn't worked out for him. So he probably doesn't. He does care, but it's just not the number one driving factor. So I think he'll show up again. Redbud's his home race. He'll probably show up at Redbud. I know he's healthy. Well, I hesitate to say I know, because that's not fair. I don't know, but I believe that he's healthy enough to race this weekend. I think he was healthy enough to race Hangtown. I truly believe it came down to he didn't want to. And that's okay. I don't pay him. So who am I to say it's okay? Like, he's making his decision. He's not getting fired. So clearly someone's saying it's okay. I do hope he comes back sometime soon because he adds a lot to the sport. He's such a talented rider, and there's just no way to argue if he's out there in the fight that the races won't be better. So I hope whatever is really, because I do think something's bothering him. Like, there's some underlying thing here that he's upset about. Bike, team, something. And I hope he can get past that, understand the bigger picture aspect of all this, and come back to the series.
Yeah, it's just so bizarre, isn't it? Without clarity, it just leaves us to speculate, really. So hopefully we get some of that soon. All we've really heard from him is that tweet to Lewis Phillips, and that's kind of all he's given us of late. So I guess we'll talk some racing now, mate. There's been so much going on and off the track, but just a few reflections on Thunder Valley, mate. The ruts were pretty wild there. The weather beforehand, obviously wreaking havoc with a fair few things. The track workers did an amazing job getting up to speed. Obviously, the rental cars copped a pounding. You see some of those clips as well. A few pretty unhappy people, but yeah, it was definitely a demanding one. It was a test for those guys, and it adds a nice variety to the calendar having a track like that. And there was obviously a couple of guys that shone there pretty emphatically, namely Hymas and Jett Lawrence. But it was a really great, exciting weekend of racing, all things considered, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. The track, the track was really soft and really tricky, and the track crew did a fantastic job of kind of getting it into shape every time those guys went out, because it would have been a disaster. Like, if this was 25 years ago when track work was really sparse, we didn't have some tracks didn't have very much equipment. Like, they just kind of like, hey, we worked on it, go racing. Like, I raced a ton of races, national supercrosses that were that way. They didn't either have the time, the capability, the staff, or they simply just thought that's what motocross was supposed to be. Like, hey, these are the conditions. Let's see who can figure it out. It would have been catastrophically bad. It would have been like endurocross. Honestly, it really would have. That's how soft the racetrack was. But it made for great racing. They were working on it every single time riders went out there, and it's still, by the end of the race, was incredibly difficult for those guys to get around. So I thought the race was great. I thought it was really challenging on the riders. Like, you could see, when you see a guy like Tomac making several mistakes every single lap, that should tell you how tricky the track is to go fast on. And then, like, look at AP. Like, what I would say, kind of on the Sexton topic, watching AP, like, to me, watching Plessinger, that bike doesn't look like there's any reason to not want to be on it. Like, I know everybody's experience with motorcycles is different. What Sexton likes, AP might not, but it does not appear, watching AP, that the motorcycle is a huge, like, just debilitating factor, right? Like, something that Sexton couldn't get past. Looked pretty damn competent to me.
Yeah, absolutely. If we just continue on the theme of AP, continued his top start to the motocross season. Obviously, that pass on Jett in the moto was super impressive, but also has been his speed and intensity and the aggression. He's really up for the fight. He looks so motivated to keep battling and raising to new levels and just wanting to be in the fight with these heavy hitters. It's really all been positive. He's got the confidence. He's happy with the bike. He's clearly there with the fitness. The fans love him. He's just bringing pretty much the best version of AP at the moment we've seen, definitely on a 450. So tied for podiums with Tomac, and for laps led, he's only second to Jett. So really awesome to see, isn't it, mate? He's probably got to be the best podium interview out there, which you get to enjoy regularly.
Yeah, I have a lot of respect for what AP is doing, because you think about it, nobody expects him to really be in the fight with Tomac or Jett. Like, I don't, and I can't imagine that the average fan thinks that he's going to beat either of those two guys. So in spite of that, in spite of, like, him understanding what an alien Jett is and understanding what the legend of Eli Tomac means, he's just inserting himself into the fight. Like, everybody else be damned. I'm going to try to win. Like, he straight up passed Jett Lawrence in that first moto. And you can say, well, he had that inside line and Jett didn't know it. Okay, well, that's part of racing, man. Like, I don't know what to tell you. 99.99999% of all racers on earth, you can tell Jett to take the worst line in every corner all the way around the racetrack, and they're not going to pass him. AP passed him, and yes, he couldn't hold on to it. And yes, he wasn't able to win the moto. I get all that, but the progression that AP has made is notable. Like, anybody who doesn't want to give AP credit for what he's doing is missing the plot here, because he is transforming right in front of our eyes. And that doesn't mean that he's going to win the title this year or any year. It just means he has improved a lot. He has closed the gap to those guys in a very, very respectable and in a way that I think it has to be mentioned. Like, to overlook that, I don't think would be fair to him. And I've or especially early in his 450 career, I was kind of a detractor. I just wasn't that high on AP. Like, I was like, yeah, he'll be fine. He'll be a factory 450 guy. But he has surpassed all of my expectations. You know, he's won a race in 450 class in Supercross. He's had the red plate. He's still, you know, breaking through in motocross, but all these barriers that everyone, including me, have kind of wanted to gatekeep him with, he's kind of knocking those down one by one. So I of all people, I want to call that out, because I have been a person who'd been like, yeah, he's got a ceiling. Like, he's just never going to go to that level. I don't know. Like, I still don't know if he'll ever be like 450 Pro Motocross champion. I'm not saying that, but he has surpassed anything I thought he was capable of. So who knows what else he may have waiting in store for us.
Yeah, well said, mate. That's great stuff. And I think he mentioned just the value of not getting injured and coming in with a full head of steam. And I guess you look at the other side of the coin, Jett winning, and it just makes it even more amazing what he's doing. Take it for granted how good he is, but he's still coming off that injury not really that long ago. And to go 1-1 while still not fully content with himself and the bike and knowing he can do better, it's pretty scary, mate. But yeah, he had that track so dialed. You know, we've always spoken about the technical proficiency, the strength, the balance in the core, coordination, concentration. It's a complete package, isn't it, mate? So obviously those long testing days paid off, he mentioned, but he's really essentially bereft of any real weakness, isn't he, mate? And I guess we just want to keep seeing the Tomac battles, but it's going to be so hard for anyone to consistently beat him, especially when he compounds that for his competition by getting such great starts.
Yeah, I mean, the guy's not I don't know. He's not human, honestly. Like, I don't know what to make of the guy, because the way he does his winning is so unorthodox for what I expect from him. Like, you think about, like, his stats are better than Carmichael and Stewart when they got on 450. Like, he has surpassed their stats, and he's got a long way to go to beat them on the totals. But on a percentage winning basis, he's the best we've ever seen. Like, that is a pure fact. But he doesn't dominate visually the way they did. Like, Carmichael would just kill everybody. Like, he would be 30 seconds out front, and you're like, yeah, man, he's probably not going to lose until he decides to lose. Stu was the same way. When Stu was healthy and on after Ricky was gone, he could win by really, like, however far he chose to. Jett doesn't do it that way. He's kind of just managing every situation, and it's almost like a game to see what's the least I can do and win. And I don't think that's what he's doing, but that's what it kind of looks like to me. It's like, how little effort can I possibly put in here? How little risk can I possibly take and still get this win? Because you could see him. I tried to call it out in the broadcast. When AP got him, he like immediately responded, changed lines, got him right back, right? At the end of the first 450 moto, you could see him in the last couple of laps like elevate his pace. He's like, all right, I'm just going to try to check out. I'm just going to try to get away right now and make my life a lot easier. So he has that pace in him. I just don't know if he is looking at it going, well, yeah, I have it, but like I got to take a lot of risk. So the chances that I crash or the chances that I wear myself out, like maybe he gets tired going that elite sprint speed. Like, he's like, I can only do this for like 2 or 3 laps. So I really have to be careful of when I put that effort in. Or I can go faster than anybody in the world for half a lap, and I'll save that, and I'll really utilize it when I need it to get the gap. Or if Tomac's all over me, I'll sprint away from him and build a 3 or 4 bike length lead, and then I can manage that and kind of, even if he closes it back down, okay. But it's such a unique thing. Like I just have not seen this methodology from racers very often. And I think I mentioned on a broadcast somewhere, the only time I've ever seen it was Stu in 2008 when he came back for Pro Motocross, and it was coming off an injury, the same as Jett is, but he won every moto, but he was cruising half the time. Like I would go back and watch the races. I was in them, but I would go back and watch them after and be like, that guy's not trying. Like I'm just like, I know what full sprint James Stewart looks like. He's not trying. I don't know that that's where Jett is. It's similar but different, and I don't know that I'll ever figure it out. And I don't know if, like maybe Jett could articulate it exactly, or maybe he doesn't ever want to, but it is a very, very unique way of being the most dominant on paper rider we've seen thus far. Like what it feels like and what it looks like, and then what the stats say are wildly different things. So which one do you choose to believe, I guess is the best way to put it. Like if you don't like Jett and you're super American, I want American to win, like you're a Tomac fan, I have a lot of those, you're going to be like, yeah, the guy's barely winning. Like Tomac can beat him. He's going to beat him next weekend. But if you're super objective and you just look at the stats, you're like, says who? Nobody beats him. Like he's won every race but one that he's entered that he finished. Like he was 18 out of 19 or 17 out of 18, whatever it is. And you, like any sober human would say that race that he crashed out of Hangtown, he was going to win that too. Like he was winning the race. He smoked everybody in time qualifying. He was going to win that race just like he had won all the rest. So I don't know, man. The guy continues to mystify me as to how he does all this. I'm just happy to be a witness to all of it, because one day we're going to be talking about him like we talked about Carmichael and McGrath and Supercross and all these other guys. He's going to be a legend that was here and then moved on to, greener pastures, but it is remarkable to watch.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Well said. It must be so demoralizing for the competition, and I guess for the fans that obviously throw a lot of shade your way and Jett's way, they're kind of missing out on just enjoying purely watching a racer that is that good, as that elite, just the way he goes about it. So impressive. And like you said, it's amazing that he's not really pushing the limit for a lot of those races. Then you see Tomac in contrast. It looks like he's really pushing the limit on the weekend. You can see the frustration in his riding, just wanting to get past Hunt and wanting to make those moves and just get the battle to Jett, but he just couldn't quite get it done. And obviously that frustrating spill there, a disaster for him. But yeah, he was riding so well, wasn't he, mate? He was leaning that bike over. So many cool sort of nuances and body movement in the corners and on the jumps. He was really going for it, but he just couldn't quite piece it together. And having those couple of crashes already have been costly for sure.
Yeah, I mean, Tomac is like, for lack of a better phrase, he's going for it, right? Like he's leaving every ounce of himself on the track at all times. And for him to crash, to fall over in that corner, I think was indicative of that. Like he knew there was an opportunity. He knows that, I think most riders, he understands that, like, okay, if I can get to them, I have the capabilities to just pass them. Like I don't have to go like outsized risk. In my heart, I believe that Jett and Eli mutually view each other in similar ways. Like if, as a racer and in other aspects of life, you're constantly like assessing threat level of a situation. I believe Eli looks at Jett and Jett looks at Eli and they're like, okay, that's the real threat. Like we all love AP. Hunter can have his good day. Chase isn't even out there. Everybody else, they're kind of looking at going, well, yeah, but like it's going to take something out of the usual for them to beat me. Jett and Eli are looking at each other going, I have to nail every aspect of my game. I need to get the start. I can't make a mistake. I can't be feeling bad. The bike can't work poorly, or else that guy's going to beat me. Because, Jett's looking at Eli going, that's one of the all-time greats. And I've watched race after race of this guy absolutely annihilating everyone. And Eli's looking at Jett going, well, this is probably the next coming of Ricky Carmichael. And I am a legend in my own right, but it's going to take my best stuff to deal with this guy. So, you can see the respect level that Jett gives Eli. Like, he physically took the camera and said, go put the camera on Eli. Like, that guy deserves respect. His family's here. Like, get it off me. You guys are always filming me. Go film Eli. This guy deserves better than that. He's the first one to shake Eli's hand. He has a huge smile on his face every time he comes off the track battling with Eli. Win or lose. Like, look at San Diego this year. He was smiling ear to ear after getting beat by Eli. Like, that is – I just think there is a different type of respect between those two than everybody else. And it doesn't always have to be jovial or like a real amicable respect, because I've seen it with James Stewart and Chad and Ricky. They all didn't like each other, but the respect was on a different level than everybody else. Like, respect, even though like I don't like someone, you can really dislike someone, but you know in your heart of hearts that, like, oh, that guy's a problem. Like, that guy, I have to really worry about this guy, where some other guy, you're like, yeah, whatever. Like, okay, yeah, if I blow it, he can beat me. But, like, if I just do anything close to normal, I'm going to beat that guy. I think that's how Jett and Eli view the rest of the field. That's just my perspective on it. That's why you don't see them get too worked up about these other guys. Like, I would ask anybody, not just you, Ed, anybody, have you ever seen Jett get extremely worked up about Chase Sexton?
No, not often.
Not really. No. And Chase is incredible. Chase is Supercross champ, Pro Motocross champ, Motocross of Nations champ. He has all the accolades in the world, multi-race winner. You don't get he's really checked every box. But I think deep down, Jett looks at him and goes, yeah, you're really good. You're just not quite as good as I am. I think that's how he feels. And I don't think he means that in a derogatory way, a negative way. It is just, in this world of racing, you're dealing with, like, alphas. All these guys are alpha males. Egos, whether they portray it or not. You can't get to the level they're at without having an ego, because everyone around you, every racer is constantly trying to knock your ego down. So these guys have egos. There's the aspect of having humility and being humble, while also being very, very, very sure of yourself. Like, those two things can coexist. I believe that Jett kind of knows, yeah, I can beat Chase. Like, I can beat Chase. And he's proven it time and time again, where, I don't know, there's just something different about, I think, the way that Jett and Eli view each other, that they're like, both of them are like two alpha males or alpha, like, lions in the jungle, looking at each other like, I don't know, man. Like, I don't really want to tangle with that dude, because he might be as good or better than I am. Like, I just think that's kind of how they see each other.
Yeah, it's an awesome dynamic to follow for sure, mate. Great breakdown of it. And obviously, before we wrap up, mate, we got to touch on Chance Hymas. Obviously, absolutely flawless performance in the fly racing kit. Looked excellent. Obviously, perfect weekend, really. Fastest qualifier, both hole shots, led every lap, went 1-1. So good in those ruts. Like we mentioned with Jett, the technique was absolutely on point, managed the race so well. And, you mentioned he'd been riding motocross for a couple of months after the Supercross title was an unrealistic goal. And he was, obviously, the start of the season didn't quite go to plan. So having that food poisoning issue, and then Deegan doing the no electrolyte deficiency post, having to dig at him, talking about egos as well there also, mate. But yeah, he let his skills do the talking on the weekend. The way he carried speed was just so excellent through that track. And you mentioned with Weege and JS7 on the broadcast about Idaho training back home, and Stuart carried on with the home cooking comments, which were pretty gold. But yeah, what a weekend for Hymas and Fly Racing and Honda, mate.
Yeah, I mean, it was a pretty big breakout weekend, and I think, when you think about where Chance is in his development, like, he's in this phase now where I think race wins can come. Like, if you told me we're going to get some weather this weekend, Hymas is great in the mud. He won the Foxborough round. It's going to be, at minimum, it's going to be really ruddy, which also Hymas is fantastic at. So it's a good setup for Hymas this weekend. If you told me he won again, that wouldn't shock me. Where he really needs to take the step, and I think there is a big aspect of this where championship, there's the cliche phrase of championships are won on your bad days. That's really where the bugaboo is for Hymas right now. Like, his bad days are atrocious. And I understand, like, you get food poisoning during the week and you can't race because you're sick, and okay, fair. I'm not here to cast judgment. I'm just telling you, to win a championship, that can't be a factor. Like, that can't matter, because the races are going off on Saturdays, and if you don't get any points, you're not going to win the championship. I don't care what's wrong. It just simply doesn't matter. And I know that's cold and harsh, but that's reality to be champion, right? And I wasn't even in consideration for a championship, but I know what it takes to win them. I've been witness to them. I've watched Chad Reed race with a broken shoulder blade because I can't miss the race, right? Like, Detroit 08, his shoulder blade was literally broken, and he got 12th. And I got 10th, and I actually kind of felt bad. I thought maybe I should pull over and give him the points. But, like, those are the type of days where if he doesn't race that, he wouldn't have won. Like, Wyndham would have he could have cruised around to Vegas had he not raced that night in Detroit. Like, that's just the long and the short of it. So for Hymas, he's taking steps. Like, we watched it last summer. He wins Moto at Colorado. He wins Red Bud. He's really kind of on his way. And then he starts throwing things away. Huge crash at Unadilla. Like, you just see all the variance in there, where Deegan, fantastic 4-moto win streak. And then, like, yeah, he doesn't have a good day. His bike almost lets go, kind of not feeling it. What happens on that so-so day? He goes 2-2. And in the end, his points lead only gets bigger to the field, right? That is the huge, huge missing link for Hymas. So, I talk to him a lot. Like, people really close in his program, I'm really close with. So I get a lot of, like, secondhand info. And all we talked about this entire spring was, I want to be Pro Motocross champ. I want to be Pro Motocross champ. I understand. And I think you have the talent, you have the equipment, like, you're capable of winning races. But until he figures out every single Saturday, I'm going to be there, part of this, it's not going to happen. So that's kind of what I'm looking at. The reason I bring that up is, if he wins again this weekend, I think you're going to hear a lot about, it's not over. He's in this thing. And I'm going to kind of be like, like, how many points now is he down? 40? Like, he's 49 right now. So he's down 40. Like, he's going to make up 40 points on Deegan. Like, that's the problem with this whole thing. So all that sounds really negative, and I'm not trying to be negative. I'm trying to be a realist of this situation and just say what's missing. Like, there's a lot going for him. Like, he should be super proud of himself, super optimistic, have a lot of confidence going into High Point. All those things should absolutely be true. What I'm going to be looking for is when things aren't clicking, it's just not all there for him, and he still goes like 4-2. That's going to be like bad starts, tip over, track's not really working for him, and you're still standing on the podium, even if it's third at the end of the day. That's going to be where I think he's turned the corner. And it's not going to feel like it. It's not going to grab any headlines. You're not going to have people like, oh my God, did you see Hymas? But the subtlety of that is going to be a real game changer for him when it really comes down to the end of like a points championship.
Yeah, definitely look forward to seeing the future for him, what it holds, because definitely all the ingredients are certainly there to be a champion and a real star of the sport. So, obviously, lastly, mate, quick look ahead to High Point. How excited are you for the weekend? What's the weather looking like? How's the track shaping up? Obviously, last year, Jett went 1-1, then Sexton and Hunter on the podium, and obviously Ty Masterpool in the 250s won ahead of Deegan and Hymas. So, great venue, and I guess everyone's looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. I don't know. The weather is going to be an interesting factor here. It's calling for rain on Friday and Saturday, and this part of the world, so where I live in Idaho, when it rains, it doesn't do a whole lot. It can, but it's more similar to like Seattle, where you kind of get this mist. And I know a lot of people are listening from around the world, but it's just an area where rain is kind of like more of a misty, really light, annoying type rain. when it rains in like Florida or this area of the country on the East Coast where there's humidity, it freaking rains. Like it floods things, it ruins racetracks. It will be a mud race if we get a lot of rain. So that's what I'm really worried about. We have enough problems at High Point when they're not even really calling for rain. It's just like, yeah, we may get a passing shower. That's a dangerous thing. But when you have like, yeah, it's definitely going to rain, that's a pretty scary setup for a weekend like this. So nothing wrong with it. Mud racing is part of the deal. Like that's why it's a championship. That's why, you know, the best racers in the world race, whether it's MXGP or SMX World Championship. It asks the most of everyone, and mud and, you know, adverse conditions are a part of that. It could change the look and feel of this weekend, and things happen. Bikes break. Like the points could get flipped upside down for all sorts of different ways this weekend. So I just don't think it's going to be the normal sun's out, beautiful day, let's drop the gate and see what happens. I think there's going to be some serious things happen results wise, because I think the weather's going to force some craziness onto us.
Oh, it's going to be fascinating, mate. All the best, and all the best with the broadcast and stuff. You're crushing it, mate. You and the crew are doing an awesome job delivering to the fans across the world, mate. So definitely look forward to speaking again next week. Obviously, big shout out to the fans as well for the support of this podcast, and huge thank you to Fly Racing and Firepower Batteries. Go check them out on socials and online. See all the excellent offerings they have, and yeah, make sure to get purchasing. So all the best, JT, for the weekend, and we'll catch up again next week. Been another great podcast.
Thanks, Ed. Pleasure, man.
No worries, mate. Have a good one.